I vow to
I
cut
vow
off
to cut off
endless
endless
fixations.
fixations.
I vow
I
to
vow to
master
master
limitless
limitless
approaches
approaches
to
to
Dharma.
Dharma.
I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. All right. I vow to cut off endless fixations. These. Any more got it's coming up? No? All right. Hold. Here comes two more. All right. Give 1 second. Go. And okay. Good evening to you all. I have a special message to you. See if I can do it. A heart. And for Korean people, then let's see. How do I do that? Like that. Yeah. So happy Valentine's Day. So if you haven't been wished happy Valentine's Day, at least I have sent you a Valentine. So blessings to all of you. We're going to start in terms of talking about some of the Chan masters from the beginning to beginning in Chan and China. Before I got there, I want to talk a little bit about what a master, or what sometimes they're called teachers, is in general, to be able to discern what the duties of the Chan master, or what the duties what the duties are of the ones that are listening. And I ran across something in this book, Zen Dawn by Thomas Cleary. And he has talked about the idea of what a teacher is. And I thought it would be great to share with you, because it's something that I was talking to someone yesterday, and they're saying, well, you need to talk perhaps more basic about the Chan, and maybe you can get people, but it's not very easy to do that, because when we try to talk too basic, we lose the essence of what we're trying to impart. My technique is one to elevate that carrot a little bit farther up so that one cannot grab a hold of it. This works as best as I could. And I told this person, had anybody had a better way of doing it with all the Chan masters that we studied from, including starting with Bodhidharma Dhammo, they would have figured out a way before me. But that's just the way it is that what we present is not something that is readily understandable or acceptable. It takes somebody that of very, very deep root to go right to it. If it was so easy, it would be something that with just writing one book, everybody would come to it. But it's very interesting, because as one gets realizations, you see that irregardless whether it's a sutra, a treatise, a lecture, all of them are saying the same thing. We just don't know it, but I'll call them, for purposes of not losing you, the teachers come up with different ways, expedient means to try to reach people. But ultimately, we are talking about the same thing. But we come from using, like the analogy of a diamond, and then twisting it, and then using this facet for entry, and then this facet. But if you looked at each facet there, you would see the light perfectly reflecting on each of the facets that are there. but we do our best to try to come up with expedient means to try to say the same thing, which is not say anything. If we had to say something, it would be thus. And if we wanted to get it a little bit more rudimentary, we would say mind or no mind. And then beyond that, we've dumbed it down to a point where we fall into samsara. The whole idea of a teacher is one to try to pull the students from samsara. But herein lies the rub with this is that who is the student and what are we pulling out? And there's this big line of people that are waiting to get out of samsara. Where are they going to go? Really, where are they going to go? You tell me, where are they going to go? Is there any place for them to go? Now, we're already beyond words and letters. So you see how tricky it is sometimes for us to try to present the Bodhidharma in a proper way, because we have to be careful. One is a Dharma that is beyond words, and two, who is the audience? And this is very tricky too, because you have to say, well, if I'm not the audience, then who is? But then again, there is where one begins the search. And then when we look at this and we say, this one that begins the search, it's just mind. So when we look at that, and sometimes somebody will say it returns to the one. This concept of returning to the one is samsaric. Because if we have the idea of one, we should have the idea of a multitude of things that return to the one. Rather, if all is mind, there is no necessity to call it one. Thus, the one, it is where the one returns to, which is just mind. And so some of you are following along with me. Some of you are trying to catch up, or some, and others may not have a clue yet. But it is this way in which the master, the teacher, must present the Dharma. So let me read a little bit of what Thomas Clary says about this. He says, the first point to notice about Buddha's teachings are intended as skillful, expedient means devised and used according to various needs of particular audiences and situations. Religious utterances are not meant as dogmatic statements because the truth is not seen as something that can be defined conceptually or captured in a string of words. So he's saying that we cannot say, have, for instance, you must have faith in mind and say, oh, well, this statement will deliver me. No, it won't. Huh? Well, then why are you saying that? So that you understand that those words will not deliver you. And so it isn't in the statements, it is in the process of contemplating what has been said that provides one's ability to realize or to awaken to that this samsara is a dream world. But just saying that to you, I don't think I've ever said to somebody this samsara is a dream world and they have become instantly enlightened. That would be like maybe winning the ultimate lotto or something, that somebody could do that. That's what happened with Hui Ning. He won the ultimate lotto. He heard it and boom, he was there. But that's few and far between. If we did have that, we would have more Hui Nings in different persons that are teaching in the same level as him. But that's not very easy to do. But nevertheless, what's important is we all have this capacity to be able to have this awakening or realization. That is what it means to just have mind, not one mind, but just mind. Everything belongs to it. So we continue on. Rather, different formulations of Buddhism are meant to have an instrumental value in promoting the development of enlightened perception. I'll stop there first. So he's saying to promote the development of enlightened perception, which is what the ancients would say, turning the mind's eye inward. And they use the idea of turning the mind's eye inward so one would no longer orient things towards coming from the brain to whatever it's going to receive, the subject and object. But when we turn the mind's eye inward, what does the mind see? Anybody? Nothing?
Mind.
Sees itself.
Mind sees mind.
Mind. Who said mind? Somebody said. Oh, Mark. Okay. All right. Yeah. And when the one person said self, self is the self nature of mind. So as one turns the mind inward, there's just mind. Everything then is perceived to be mine. If I have some beads, where are these beads perceived at is mine. Where were they created at? Mind. So it becomes very, very easy. But if we could only say that and people would become awakened, the job would be very easy. But this job, as a Dharma presenter or master or teacher, is and sometimes easy, sometimes it floats. But to take it seriously, one must be well oriented towards not only the Dharma, but the doctrines, the history, the culture in which these doctrines were developed in. So, and let's say the political atmosphere in which these were developed. All of these come into play so that one can understand why something was written, when it was written, why it was written, so that we can see it very, very clearly. So the presenter has a lot on their plates to do it properly. To just phone it in and to do something very simple, it's easy. You know, you can run a PowerPoint presentation and blah, 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 number 2, blah, blah, blah. So what? That's not the Dharma. What we want to do is we want to be able to turn this mind's eye inward to use right view. So let's continue. Therefore, according to its own view of religious teachings, Buddhism is naturally and properly multiform. There are no fixed doctrine. As the Zen saying goes, if we expounded the Dharma, if we presented the Dharma, said it, the same way all the time, weeds in front of the teaching hall would grow 10 feet deep. So for instance, if we say, how do we practice Buddhism or Chan Buddhism? Well, you follow the 5 precepts, the 6 paramitas, the 8-fold path, the 37 factors of enlightenment. Yes, I've been doing that, but I don't have any results. And then you tell the next group the same thing, and the next group the same thing, the same thing. Maybe one out of that group will be able to penetrate. But if it was so easy just doing that, then there would be no need of the teacher. We just set up the PowerPoint and say, follow this, and it will work. Does it work? Maybe, if somebody has a great sincerity to practice. What is lacking in that? What's lacking is right view. We are looking at all of these principles from the samsaric side and trying to accord our behavior to try to match that so that we can get all the tumblers to fall into place and lock, and voila, you're out. But we do follow all of those 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 37. We follow all those. But what we do is not so much as follow it, but reflect it. We reflect it in the present moment. If the mind is in right view, all of these things are doors, wonderful doors, but they're facets of the mind. And so they're reflecting mind rather than something that we have to aspire to or to reach or to grab. That's what the problem is. Once we begin to reach and grab, we miss it. It's just in this moment, just in this time. So today my topic is different than it was last week. It has to be. I can't keep teaching the same thing. Otherwise, all the weeds are going to grow. You're not going to be able to see me. The next time you see me, the weeds will be like this. And I say the same thing and they keep growing. But this is not Chan. I'm saying this because it's a preface to our original teacher of Chan, which is Bodhidharma. Actually, before Bodhidharma, there was an Indian that came a few years before him by the name of Gunabhadra. Does anybody know who he is? Extra points if you can tell me who Gunabhadra was.
Google.
I'm sorry?
Did he translate the Lankavatara?
There you go, you see. So he gets the prize, the first prize for the day. So don't get too pig-headed about this. But yes, if I'm talking about Bodhidharma, why is it important to understand who Gunabhadra was? What was Bodhidharma, Dhammo, known for?
The Lankavatara.
That's right. So it was said that he had introduced the Lankavatara to China. But Gunabhadra beat him to it. And we'll come back to that in a moment. So this was kind of like a pre-Chan teacher that brought the Lankavatara. Now, it could be Bodhidharma brought his own version of it, but it was already here. Now, it wasn't like Bodhidharma was going, look, this is the Lankavatara. I think it would have been in scroll form or something. But the Chinese were saying, yeah, we already saw that. What did you bring? Anything else? No. It was that it's attributed to Bodhidharma that he brought the Lankavatara. The Lankavatara had already reached the shores of China, but he made it very popular because he emphasized it. Okay, we continue on with Clary's parts about what a Dharma teacher is. Teaching Buddhism is likened to curing diseases. Just as there are many diseases, there are also many medicines. The enlightened teacher is like a good doctor, able to diagnose diseases and prescribe medicines accordingly. So each of you hear what I say, but there are times when one of you, or maybe several, in one lecture has some kind of an epiphany, some kind of an understanding or a realization in that sutra or whatever I said, but not everybody does that. So my point is to come from different facets in hopes of finding one that matches you, that comes up at the perfect moment, in the perfect time, that rings so clear like a bell. This is what Cleary is talking about, is this kind of the expedient means to try to find the ways that match the student. In a group lecture, I try to harmonize with all of you and present something that is of benefit. It's all a benefit, but there may be some that ring so true to you. Sometimes when you're hearing one of my lectures and you go, wow, I never thought about it that way, or something that hits you. Or some of my students that are very sincere will stick it in their mind and start thinking about it and going, what is that? What is that? Trying to think about it, and looking at the faces that are here, I can easily see many of you that's happened with things that I've presented in the past, and then you take it and start working on it. This is the way that we do that. It is, I'm presenting you the offering, but you have to take it, and then you have to kind of work with it and say, okay, here it is. It's kind of an interesting puzzle, and go ahead and work with it. And then you are working with it. The solution is not like passing a koan, like the Japanese style of Zen is, where you pass a koan. We don't pass koans. Kidney stones, yes. But koans, they aren't in that way. But the Japanese look at it as some kind of a stepped up level to pass it up. And so to achieve a realization, the koan or huatou is to simply stop the mind from apprehending thought, attaching to thought. When it no longer attaches and apprehends thought, the mind is clear. By its nature, it appears. Pretty simple. Okay, we continue on. Buddhist theory has very exacting requirements for bona fide religious teachers. Real teachers must have their own independent realizations of enlightened perception. So we'll stop there for a moment. This is something that's important. We shouldn't say that all people have to have this, but when you're listening to, let's say, the very serious teachers, they have to have had some form of a realization. We can't say enlightenment, but they had to have some kind of an understanding of looking into the self-nature of mind. That's what enables them to be able to speak with certainty, to use the lion's roar to speak, because they've had this and it has developed to bring out more forcefully the bodhicitta, this interest in delivering others. And that's important, because when they speak, they're speaking from a certainty of what they're talking about. It's not necessarily complete enlightenment, so it cannot be 100% certainty, but they're on their way at least to being able to present the material in a way that won't lead you astray. And that's very, very important. If you're going to teach, don't make things up. You follow what was said from the previous masters, from the sutras, from the treatises, all the lectures, and you deliver it in your own style. Okay, so we continue. Plus a mastery of the full range of teaching methods known as Bodhidharma. Such teachers form the core of Buddhism as it is active in the world. They devise and propagate specific adaptations of Buddhist teaching required in their own times and places, no matter how faithful to a former master's great legacy or how pious. Rote repetition, rote means you're just repeating what I call just presenting things PowerPoint style. Of previous methods and dogmatic allegiance to provisional doctrines cannot keep Buddhism alive. It cannot keep Buddhism alive. And here Mr. Cleary is very much on point, that it isn't something that we see something and then we repeat it, and we go, oh, what is the Eightfold Path? What is, the Four Noble Truths? What is this? What is that? And sometimes they even test this, the people, in order for them to teach the Dharma on this rote memorization. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't know those things, but that isn't the mark of a potentially great teacher. It is the sincerity, the bodhicitta, the realizations that the student has that brings out the potentiality of a good Dharma presenter in the future. I say this to you because, one of these days you're going to tune in and they'll say, well, Gilbert's gone. Well, where did he go? I don't know, wherever they go. And then you have to pick it up. You have to tell people. But if I talk about this to enough people, at least I'm preserving the way that Sheng should be presented and should be studied and should be practiced. This is very, very important. This notion of a true teacher suggests the core periphery model for the social, suggests a core and a periphery model of the social history of Buddhism. The core of enlightened teachers is the key to the real vitality of the religion. So what he's saying here is that those well-known advisors, they serve as a core for the history of Buddhism, how Buddhism is going to be divine in this time period and 100 years from now. Whatever we're saying, whatever you're practicing, whatever you're doing, whatever you're passing on will determine what happens in the future. It's vital. It's important because it will set that out. Shifu, Master Sheng, set out his spiritual environmentalism, and he got it from his teachers and brought it forth. He did not make it up. He just realized that was important to bring forth. And what we needed in this social time is this kind of a harmony to bring the Pure Land here and to protect the environment. So he understood this as bodhicitta, this love, not just for the people that are here, but the people that will come after us. What do you think? In 200 years from now, will people be wearing masks? Oh, wait a minute, we're doing that now. Well, they're wearing masks to breathe in oxygen because we polluted the earth. So you see, things are very important, how Chan is presented and who presents the Chan, and whether they present it in a clear way with right view present. Okay. And then he talks about the different levels of people that come into contact with a well-known advisor. And they say those close to the teacher may be enlightened with their help and acquire the ability to act as teachers themselves. Others near the core may be transformed enough short of enlightenment that they can serve as conduits through whom the teachings can be disseminated in a more widely manner without distortion. This is very, very important. So as I see it right now, all of you that are listening should at least have this kind of an ability. Others more distant from the core mentality may be emotionally inspired by the enlightened teachers and conceive feelings of respect and awe and partisan allegiance. Some may become imitators and advocates of what they take to be the great teacher's message. I won't say parrot, but because I always kid Robert about that, but isn't necessarily bad. I poke fun at him, but I'm happy that he passes it on like Ananda. Those around the periphery of the ring of influences emanating from the core teachers may be reached only weakly and indirectly, as their teachings have an indirect effect on culture and customs. The surviving records of Buddhism contain instances of all these possibilities. So it's interesting because Clary is a translator of a lot of sutras and treatises, but here he really showing some deep wisdom in terms of his analysis of what these persons are, because this was the Zen Dawn. This is him showing these masters that I'm going to talk about. They possess this, they understand this, they have this sincere bodhicitta. And then he mentioned something about a historian. And historians and scholars are a little bit different than well-known advisors. They study Buddhism for the sake of recording it. Well-known advisors study Buddhism for the purpose of enhancing or multiplying the expedient means to try to bring others to an awakening. This is a difference in them. One of them is using them as a historical record, and the other one is applying it in a sincere manner with a sincere wish and heart for the those hearing to become awakened. And he says the historian must therefore be familiar with the core message, as well as the sociology, psychology, cultural tradition of the periphery. This requirement means that the texts that remain as records of teaching must be studied and understood as wholes and in terms of their own logic, not just skimmed to reach key phrases. And this is important too, but many scholars do this. They just kind of skim and get these key phrases and they say, oh, what this means is ekayana, but they don't have an idea of what ekayana means. They just use these key phrases. But a well-known advisor should also have this historical ability, the sociology, the psychology, the political background, and where all of this stuff was presented. Otherwise, I would be telling you Bodhidharma brought the Lankavatara Sutra from India. Did he really? If it was already here? See, so it's very important for us to really have a well-rounded understanding of how things happen. That's the history part. But if we only just try to study Buddha Dharma, we're studying it in a vacuum. And it's very interesting because Clary's admonition here is one that I've read in some other books recently of scholars were saying, you know, they really speak to the intellectualism of it, but they're not speaking to what was happening at that time, the milieu or the environment in which this was there. They're not speaking to who was the audience, whether it was intellectuals or someone that was a common person. And what was spread to the common people, the people that couldn't read the sutras, but heard it only, and so they had to trust on others. What was the message that was there? How did this come about? Because when we're talking about Buddhism, we cannot just talk about intellectuals. We've got to talk about where this was said, why it was said, what, you know, why did it die out? Some of them died out because they were too intellectual. And so when the intellectuals died out, those died out. That wasn't that they were bad, it was just that those kinds of ways were difficult to do. Some of those Master Shu Yun tried to revive in the 20th century, and so those tried to survive. For instance, the 5 houses of Chan, and right now only the 2 of the Silent Illumination and the Wat To clearly remain. Others, there's vestiges of them, but we have to see from where all of these things are and what was being presented and why is Wat To and the Silent Illumination the ones that lasted. It's very, very interesting. So I will switch now. Let me see. Just to mention something about the Lankavatara Sutra. I mean, to study the Lankavatara Sutra, you have to be going on for quite a while. But it's very interesting because the Lankavatara Sutra brought in doctrines of Yogacara and doctrines of Madhyamika school. So it is very, very interesting how things were presented in the Lankavatara Sutra, but that's what made it so powerful, because it was bringing in these elements in a way that were perhaps a little more understandable in regards to Yogacara and Madhyamika, to allow people to understand. It was no doubt a reason why Bodhidharma brought it, because it did represent what I've mentioned before, Vayapula Sutra, one that contains the essence of Bodhidharma. And so it's a very, very good sutra in that way, in terms of an introduction to this higher level of doctrine. And it says, the Lankavatara Sutra says, the mind of the Buddha is supreme when the Dharma is bestowed in our teachings, where deluded states of minds do not arise. It is this. So I would say, rather than it is this, I would say it is thus. And then it goes on to say, very interesting, our Dharma is secret and silent. It is not transmitted by common fools of shallow consciousness. Only people rich in merit and virtue can receive it and carry it out. If you do not understand, if you are not liberated, the 6th consciousness possesses the 7th and the 8th. If you do understand, you are liberated. The 8th consciousness is without the 6th and the 7th. Those who intend to be Buddhas should first learn to pacify the mind. Before mind is pacified, even good things are not so good. Think about that. Even good things are not so good.
Gilbert, which translation are you reading?
I'm reading from his Zen Dawn book, so it doesn't
Oh,
give me,
I
it
see.
doesn't give me a reference to that. I don't see a footnote here.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, no problem. And so then he says, before mind is pacified, even good things are not good. So much worse for evil. When mind becomes peaceful and still, neither good nor evil has any basis. If you remember, some of the Chan poems say neither sacred nor profane. If you choose, you're off, and if you're off by a small amount, you're off by a great amount. So here this is being presented in a very interesting way because it's mixing the Yogacara concepts as well as Madhyamika in here, and where they're talking about the consciousness, but they're also talking about it's just this mind. So this was what Bodhidharma was relying upon in terms of what he was bringing to China. Although sometimes they'll say, what did Bodhidharma bring to China as some kind of a koan? Anybody know the answer to that? Nobody? Okay, then just you have a cup of tea or something. Okay, now we get to Bodhidharma. This is the beginning of the classical period of Chan, the beginning of excuse me, not the classical period, the legendary period of Chan. This was Bodhidharma, Huike, Sasan, and Daoxin were representing in this legendary period of them. And so this is at the beginning of the 5th century and perhaps part of the late 4th century in which this is all taking place. And so I should say 6th and 5th, because Bodhidharma passed away somewhere in the early 500 CE. So this time period is where they're setting out and establishing what the idea of mind. And so we'll kind of go over this a little bit as we go along. One of the things about this is that there's very little information about Bodhidharma. And a lot of scholars will say this is if I can say the word right, apocryphal, which is kind of like made up. And so there's things, for instance, let's see if I can find it. They attribute this to Bodhidharma, a special transmission outside the sutra, outside the scriptures, not founded on words or letters, by pointing directly to mind. And they put in brackets one's mind, which whoever wrote this was clueless that it should have been just mind. Don't say one's mind. Big slap for that one. Okay. It lets one into one's own true nature and thus attain Buddhahood. I know I have a better translation of this one. This one is very poor because it's talking about one, and that's where we ran into the problem. That's why I was talking about the one returns to mind. So it's difficult to do it. But the point here is this: is that It's a special transmission that is something that cannot be passed through words. If it was something that could be passed through words, then it would be easy. And that's why I told the person that I was talking to yesterday, I wish it was that way, because this would make the job much easier. Because in order for somebody to be a well-known advisor, they have to present right view in a manner in which does not dumb it down. So you have to protect the Dharma. It's not like, well, if you're like a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout and you sell cookies in front of the supermarket, and you'll do good, and and maybe you might make it into nirvana or something. Well, no, it's not that way. We cannot do that. We cannot dumb it down. What we have to do is find expedient means in which to present it to everyone. The ones that are of less ability, the well-known advisor has to find the way to reach them without cheating them. And I don't like that. I don't like people being cheated, because it's so precious, this life, to be able to be here and hear the Dharma. But then when we hear right view, there's a chance. There's a chance of an awakening. If we only are trying to be good Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts in samsara, it's not going to happen. We're just fooling the people. Be good, be a good citizen, whatever. You're good and you're a good citizen because with right view, you understand that everyone uses the same mind. So you begin from this point of talking about mind, so people understand that you're not talking about samsara. You're talking about something non-conceptual. And that takes time. It takes time to present that to people and say, it's unconditioned. What does unconditioned mean? The first time you hear that, you're puzzled. You don't know what unconditioned is. You don't know what non-conceptual perception is. Non-conceptual perception. That comes way deeper into the Tathagata Garbha sutras and Manjusri, and talking about mind and how mind perceives. So we talked about that and showed how this perception does not come from this body. It doesn't negate it. It doesn't have to negate it or make it disappear. It just simply has to be something that when we practice, we're clear about, little by little by little. But if I just tell everybody, all right, today we're going to just sit and don't have any thought, and you'll be fine. Stick with your method. And when the wheels come off, what do I tell them? But when the wheels come off with right view, I say, that's precisely how mind works. You can see the habitual patterns arising. They're naturally rising. They're naturally there. It's easy. Once you begin to understand, you're the one that puts them there. They're habitual. And even the you is put in there. It is also illusory and made up. Now that takes a little bit more talking to be able to talk to people and have them work on that. But you don't abandon anyone, even the novices. You start them off with right view. You have to talk to them in a very simple way. For instance, I will say to people, picture a red apple in your mind. So all of you picture a red apple in your mind right now. Can you see it? And then we say, and what is it projected upon? Don't look at the red apple, look at what it's projected on. It has to be projected on something. Otherwise, it could not be there. But if I told you now to picture a banana, you could see a yellow banana. The red apple passes, and there's the banana. What is the banana projected upon? That which it's projected upon is the unconditioned. It is the unconditioned mind. When we see things in this way, then we begin to see, to know the arising mind is the non-arising mind. So as we begin to practice in this way, we see things in a different viewpoint. We then understand that in order for something to appear, it has to appear on something. That is why they say, no, it doesn't increase or decrease. It doesn't have form. It's empty. It has to be, because otherwise it would present itself like a bunch of jammed up slides in a slide projector, because one isn't getting out of the way of the other. If the apple doesn't get out of the way, how could you see the banana? But that what it is projected upon has never been born. It doesn't die. And we begin this way. This is how we begin to present to the novice. I once said that to somebody. I remember I was one of my surfing buddies a long time ago, and I had just met this young lady. And then when we came back for the next week and I saw her again, she was so mad at me. And I go, why are you so mad? She goes, what is the apple projected upon? I've been thinking about it all week. She was a novice, but it stuck to her. It stuck. So we find the expedient means in which to present. And everything else is just a variation of a theme, sometimes a lot more doctrinally impressive, but it's still the same thing. We're not looking at what is transitory. We see that all the time. What we want to perceive is that which is the unconditioned. When we are able to use mind to perceive mind, we don't have to worry about the appearances, because we understand what the appearances are. They're transitory, they're empty. They are created by the mind. And so we use this in this way. All of the patriarchs' message is just this. It's just that everything is created by the mind, just mind. So, and Bodhidharma was explaining it in that way. So he came upon a method of meditation. Does anybody know what the method of meditation was of Bodhidharma? What it was called? Go ahead, Ian. Yeah, I see you nodding.
Okay.
Unless you're nodding to sleep. Go ahead.
Something like wall staring, wall gazing.
There you go. Wall gazing. Okay. It's wall gazing. And it really it kind of gave me an insight, because I started thinking about wall gazing. And it's very interesting, because sometimes when people are at a retreat and they have their eyes closed, I tell them, what do they see? When your eyes are closed at a retreat, does anybody know what you see? Yulia, you remember from before?
Course, yes. Should I say it? Yeah, you see the back leads. the back of your lids.
Yeah, you see the back of your eyelids.
Yeah.
That's natural, right? But what happens is that when we go to retreat, we see everything. We see, did I feed the dog? Did I leave the stove on? What am I going to do at work? What is happening here? I wonder if they have any good food for lunch. I wonder if my legs will hold out. What are you seeing? None of that's before you. You're in a Chan hall and you're bringing all of this garbage into the room. It's okay. It's good garbage if you can use it in the right way. The way you use it in the right way is you just gaze at the wall. If you have your eyes closed, you're just gazing at the back of your eyelids. If there's something there, it would have to be tattooed on the back of your eyelids, right? Otherwise, it's an imagining. I don't think anybody has anything tattooed on the back of their eyelids. Please tell me no. But I once had one one client, the lady who was bringing her son in, kind of a gangster kid, and she was trying to help him out, and I could tell that she had dragged him into my office, and he kept blinking, and I kept seeing something. I was wondering what he had, and finally he went like this to kind of like take something out of his eye, and I saw it said "lost cause" tattooed onto his eyes. Wow. I was going, that's probably, once he blinks, any job he'd go for would be lost at that moment. But I mean, it's really incredible what people do. They just don't see right. And when we sit on the cushion, we have to see right. We see through these illusions that are arising. We don't have to banish them from our mind. We have to understand that they're created by the mind, precisely created in this way. When we see things in this way, it becomes a lot easier to understand what you're doing on the cushion. When you're on the cushion, you're just simply sitting, Nothing more. What more do you want to do? You can rest. You're resting in this present moment. You're practicing to rest in the present moment. Right now, I am resting from driving from work. And when I was driving from work, I was resting of working at work. Every moment presents an opportunity to rest. So when we practice in this way, we become self-liberating. The self-nature of the mind liberates the self-nature of the mind. Not you. You are what the self-nature of the mind wants to liberate from. But you don't know that. You want to come along to the party. So I could just see you, if you're going in front of Manjusri with your mind, and you're going in front of Manjusri, and Manjusri will look and say, what is that skin bag there that you brought with you? You don't need the skin bag. You just use mind. You see things very clearly. We can use this body. This body functions very good to present Dharma, but it is in just this way that we see things. We see it clearly. So when you're sitting to meditate, you're wall gazing. Remember that. You're just gazing at the wall. You don't look for anything. If you see anything, you think when Bodhidharma, he gazed at the wall for 9 years. You guys find 45 minutes too hard. He gazed at a wall for 9 years. What did he see? He didn't see anything, but mind was clear, could see everything. So when we practice wall gazing. This comes from Bodhidharma. If you really want to awaken, you just set the mind in this quiet mode. Thoughts will arise, they'll come all over the place. But you don't rush to try to swat them away or invite them. Oh, here's a thought of enlightenment. Oh, let me look at this thought of enlightenment. I think this thought, oh, this is a very good one. I must be getting close to enlightenment because I haven't had a thought other than this thought of enlightenment. And then you're off. So you have to discern. Wall gazing enables you to discern. You look, wall, right? Donut. There is no donut on the wall. Just leave it alone. It came up from habitual tendencies. It will dissipate on its own. The mind will never disappear. You want the mind to disappear. You want everything to go poof. It's gone. Where did it go? I'm enlightened now. That's samsaric training. Don't engage in that. You have to practice in the proper way. What I'm telling you is what Bodhidharma told you, just brought up to date in the context of this social milieu that we have now, social environment. But it's Bodhidharma's, not mine. We'll stop there. We'll continue on with Bodhidharma next week, and then we'll get to wake up. But I'll take questions now. Come on, who wants to dance first? David, go ahead.
Oh, Gilbert, thank you very much for this presentation. As you know, I tend to ask too many questions sometimes. But I want to first say that with what you've been telling me the last few days in your presentation, I have more of an understanding now of what to be doing and everything. I guess what I have also heard and everything is just how vast all of this is. And I find at times that my faith in myself to be able to do, and I don't know if I'm even doing anything, can waver at times. So can you just briefly say something about faith in one? Faith in, is it faith in Chan, or faith in self? Sounds like it's maybe the sort of the wrong way to go.
Yeah, we have the faith in the Buddha, the faith in the Dharma, faith in the Sangha, those who present. You have faith in your own self-nature.
Self-nature, yeah.
Not you, but your self-nature, that you understand just this mind is the mind that runs through all sentient beings. This is hard for us to understand because we brought up in this culture of I, me, mine, self-conceit, self-love, self-centered. And because of it, it's very difficult to break that down because it runs counterintuitive to the laws of samsara, which say, protect yourself, be good to yourself. If somebody gets in the way, push them out of the way. It's mine. And so it's difficult for us to unwind all of that. Little by little it comes, and because of your sincerity, you're beginning to see more and more the idea of what needs to be done. You're asking questions, and don't stop asking questions. That parrot Robert, he stopped asking questions. Now he's contributing, but not bad. No, but there's still a few questions he can ask, and so I think that just stay doing that, stay probing, stay asking questions. Master Sheng once was at it was traveling, and he ran into this one master, a very, very famous master that he shared quarters with. And so Master Sheng was at the time when question after question after question was coming to his mind. So he asked this master all of these questions. And what about this? And how can mind know this? And how can mind do this? And to boom, he just kept asking. And the master was just sitting there in a meditative position, going, anything else? Anything more? And finally, the master just went, put down. And boom, the whole idea of samsara shattered for a Master Sheng. At that point, he was the master. But maybe at that moment, he became a master. But it just shattered. So you ask your questions and ask them and ask them. Don't ever think that you have a stupid question. What's stupid is not to ask questions. I'm talking to all of you, okay? To not ask questions when you have somebody. You say, if I had this chance with Master Sheng, it wasn't that way. I mean, you couldn't just sit there and talk to him. No, I learned by listening to him, by watching him, and trying to get any little lesson out of him. It was something that is learned in a different way. But we have to be probing all the time, and you're good at that. So keep at it. Okay, Robert.
Earlier you mentioned about war gazing, and when we practice, when we sit, we are resting in present moment. When you say that, a question came out. It's like really recently when I sit, it's like, who is resting in this present moment? When you say it, it's like the who pop up. Who is it? Is it the mind I'm trying to, the monkey? I say, wait, you rest, or forget about the monkey. But who is resting? The wall is not, is the wall resting? Or who is resting? Or nobody is resting. There's no one. Or just rest.
This question would be more suitable for you to ask the lamppost. Just keep asking. Just keep asking it. But do not let it interfere with your meditation. But it should be like a sweet taffy candy stuck on the back of your throat. It tastes so sweet, but yet you want to resolve it. It's a sweet. This is a very sweet conundrum that you have, that you are not clear about because you cannot answer it. Best to ask the lamppost, okay?
Okay.
You'll see.
I'll go look for a lamppost tonight.
Ask Rick, he found one very early on.
I remember Wendy talk about lamppost, so I need to borrow one from her.
Yeah, Rick, my most senior student, it was the very first instruction I gave him. And it just like rang like a bell to him. So he's one of those that were very fortunate to get it right from the very beginning, like that. Just amazing. So, okay, Weishan. You jumped in front of Christoph? No, maybe you were there first. Okay.
This question is from it's actually from your last lecture. You asked, what's the difference between no self and not self? I came up with the answer a week later. To me, I think no self equals to nirvana, and not self equals to mind. I will ask your opinion of this on?
I see how you're saying that, and what you're doing is you're expressing it in samsaric terms, which isn't bad, because otherwise, unless you could go like this and I would go, yes, you're right, then we have to use language. But when you say things like that, it indicates to the well-known advisor what is your state of mind. And this isn't necessarily bad. This you can use. Again, just like Robert using his, this was a turning phrase that a facet of that diamond that is hitting you. And just keep working at that. Just work at that. And don't try to get too deep with it. Just try to visualize and try to not use words, but turn it into a contemplation. This is not easy, but if you could turn it into this contemplation, it could shatter the world. Okay. Very, very good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Krista. I'm in a very complimentary mood today because it's Valentine's Day. All right.
Amitav, I wasn't. I don't really have a question. I would, if you don't mind, I would like to answer or try to answer the question you had before about the Bodhidharma. What did he bring to China? Nothing.
Nothing?
Or as okay.
Or wasn't that nothing already there? So what did he bring to China?
I will return to that then. Amitav.
You could play with that one. It's very interesting. But you're working it, so that's good. All of this is mind work. This is our forum, right? Mind work. This is what we do. No, we are looking towards the unconditioned. We already have a lot of experience with the conditioned, but we're looking towards the unconditioned. Okay, Esther.
Hi, Gilbert. I still don't quite understand what the unconditioned mean. Would you kindly elaborate on that?
Say that again. The what condition?
The unconditioned.
Unconditioned.
Yeah.
Well, for instance, on your Zoom, you have all these wonderful flowers behind you, right? This picture. Every time I see it, it always makes me feel so calm because I can see the wonderful flowers. But that's the conditioned mind, my mental impressions. What that picture, now you are not really in a field of flowers, right? You're not in that field. That's like fake scenery, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so otherwise I'd say, boy, what a lucky one you are, to be there. But you're not there. So you had to have put that picture behind you, right? So it's like a dream projected on another dream. But whatever is projected, it has to be projected upon some kind of a screen, a mental screen. So you could change that picture to have a mountain scene, right? And you could change the color of your hair. All of that is conditional. But that on which it's projected upon is unconditioned. It can't be, because if it was conditioned, then it would be transitory, because we know all of these things from the Madhyamika school of Nagarjuna, they're fundamentally empty. The only way they can be fundamentally empty is if they're part of mind. So the mind does not interfere with what you put up there. It doesn't say to you, sorry, you cannot use this color yellow. You're going to need to use something with a blue color or something nicer or whatever. It doesn't do that. Whatever you want to project upon it, it's projected in accordance with causes and conditions. But the screen that it's projected upon never changes. It enables things to be projected upon it. This is where you have to really study. This is mind work. You have to find out, what is this unconditioned? What is that? What does it mean to be conditioned and unconditioned, to be conceptual or non-conceptual? We use the non-conceptual mind's perception to see things. This is mind. It's non-conceptual. It sees things as it is. It sees through them, but doesn't make them disappear. It doesn't interfere with them, because that very appearance is mind itself, pratika samappada. But when we try to place pratika samappada here and these projections here as something separate, it doesn't work. They are one and the same, but we try to peel it off somehow and try to slice a little bit of mind off so that we can show that we exist. But we are conditioned. Again, as I said, if you don't believe me, come back in 100 years and we'll have this discussion. And if either one of us shows up, you know, that means we got bit by a zombie or something. So in any case, just understand it in this way. Keep asking. You have to. It's not easy. The first times I heard those words, they really set me to contemplate. What does this mean? And it takes a lot of time to contemplate, to kind of distill the real profound wisdom from it. So even me talking to you in words is not enough. You need to keep practicing. You need to see. And then once you do that, when I see the world, when I see samsara, I don't see real. The only thing I see is real mind. But I don't see this world as anything other than a dream in my best moments. And then, goodbye, Paloma. In any case, it's something that you just have to just keep working on, okay? But all of these good questions, yes.
Okay. My
Amitabha.
question is you said that samsara world is a dream world, and my dilemma is, what is not a dream? Because even the Buddha's Pure Land is also transitory. So the only thing that's permanent is when you get to your mind's pure land. Everything else is still a different kind of dream.
And what is your mind's pure land?
That's mind's pure land. It's just mind. Other than that, everything else is transitory. I mean, even Buddha's Pure Land is also transitory.
That's right. So why would you call it a pure land? As opposed to what, an unpure land?
Because my question is when you say samsara is a dream world, so isn't everything else is all kind of dream, even including whatever you described to me, like pure good, and until you really hit the point, until you come back to your I mean, now that when you say when you return to one.
But what I told you, where does the one return to?
Right, that return to mind. That's the real true, what they call pure.
you would not be there.
It's just mind. We are not becoming anything else. That's just all. It's a long way.
How far is that? Like, I mean, like, I'm just wondering how far it would be if I have enough gas. I wouldn't want to take an electric car there.
It's a long path. It's a long path.
I'm playing with you, but I'm playing with you in a way to measure your understanding and to adjust your sights.
Mm.
First of all, you have the scope pointed in the wrong direction. Although it's trying very, very hard. Which is why I spend the time with you. You know, I don't suffer fools. But all of you are presenting very good questions. And what I'm doing is just slightly modifying what you're saying, because it's not just what you say to me, Rongchen, it's what you say to others. And that is really important. I'm spending the time, so when you talk to others, you're clear. You're really, really clear about it. So keep playing with this as well, about this Pure Land. And we use these terms, Pure Land, and we have the Amitabha's Western Pure Land. Do you think that that's real or not real?
It is still what I call it's like a college.
Yes, not the real world where you have to get out and make a living, right?
Yeah, it's still a college.
All right, so it's still within samsara. That's why they said, the Diamond Sutra said, that the Buddha could not be known by his 32 marks. It is neither pure nor impure. It is just thusness. That's what I want you to take from this, and then contemplate what I just said, okay? And then that will kind of modify your whole idea of that, because sometimes you kind of start getting close and we intellectually go, oh, I see, you know. And I used to always tell my dad, I go, Dad, I see. And he would say to me, con el I see, meaning con means in Spanish with the I see, you know. He's telling me, oh, now you're coming with the I see. And he says, you see nothing. And I was like, I would always get so frustrated when he said that. He'd always say, you see nothing. And to me, I'm seeing now how profound that is. So there's a little bit of a lesson in that for you, okay? But it's good. Like I said, all of these questions are very excellent questions. You know, some of them were stewing from last week, and I just chose to kind of change gears because I think I Pratika Samapada you out for a while. And so I wanted to change to something else. But it's all connected. Okay, any other questions? Last chance. Wendy, go ahead.
I think I asked too many questions too, but I'm just trying. I think I'm trying too hard to relax and to rest in now. And you know, when you're really trying to relax, you can't. So, well, just help me out here. Thank you.
Yeah, relaxing should be just like breathing. Do you have to think to breathe? It just comes natural. You see, it's even more natural than breathing, which requires all sorts of nervous system and different things. I think we call it the autonomic nervous system, which breathes on its own. You don't never have to think about breathing. So when we relax, it is just the nature of mind to rest in the present moment. So when we start hyperventilating and getting nervous, we just let that go. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. That's all. Just let it go. And then just you're in the present moment. But everything is so clear and still. When we let go, we even let go of the I. We don't need the I most of the time. If somebody asks you a question, of course you respond to them. But we interject the I in too many things in our daily activities that doesn't need to be there. So if we need to get a job out, we're working or whatever, we just do the job. We don't have to think, I am doing the job. Mind is perfectly capable and better at doing the job than you are, because after a while, you'll start like looking and picking at something on your hand, looking at your nails and wondering what color they should be, or they need to be cut or whatever. But mind just does. It just does what needs to be there. Very, very simple. Doesn't have to be anything. And so we make it hard. You're the one that's generating all of this movement. But the you, the true you, doesn't generate any movement. You just keep listening to that Wendy. Don't pay attention to her. She's a troublemaker, okay? She's always robbing from you. Every time when you don't look, she's stealing from your purse. She's taking your treasure. And she'll go, oh, look over there. What? And then she takes your treasure from you. You think she's your best friend. She's not. She's a thief. She steals your tranquility. Don't pay attention to her. Naturally, you will be calm. Okay? Gilbert's guarantee. And again, Gilbert's guarantee comes with a lifetime guarantee. If you don't get it right, you can come back next lifetime and try again. You're guaranteed another life. Okay? All right. I guess that's it for tonight. We're right at the time, unless somebody has a last minute question. Anybody has one? Nobody? And I mean, you guys, the same usual suspects or unusual suspects that ask questions, but I would hope others would join in, because they're true bodhisattvas to ask questions. They put themselves out there, but they are really progressing. If you ask them and you ask the people like that, David's jumped ahead of a lot of people. Wendy will do the same. Robert was there asking question after question after question. He's still asking questions. But this is how you progress. So I'm watching all of you, okay? I see you. I see your names. Some of you hiding behind your names. But ask questions. This is where you really be able to advance. No. So in any case, Harry didn't ask a question this time, but even he has, many, many years of practice, and he'll ask questions or make comments. And this is important. We have this kind of an exchange with all of you. Okay. Harry, do you still have a lecture coming up?
Yeah, I'm continuing my series on Hamlet and Buddhism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes, I did it 2 weeks ago, and I'm on Act 2.
Act 2.
So it's been very interesting. I got good responses, and I'm trying to show how the Dharma is involved in anything. That if you can have a proper view, if I'm doing it properly, and Hamlet is so rich. There's so many insights just in the lines, and also the way that you can counter it and how people interpret it. So there's a metaphor of like meditation is like you're at a stage and things are happening, but you're not involved with it. So I'm using that angle to show how it's not just it's not just a story that has nothing to do with anyone. It actually can show you how you're working with your own mind in the way that you encounter the play. That's what I'm trying to do. So,
Well, you're lucky because Hamlet was such a messed up guy.
he was, yeah.
So he's the one that you can have a good example, albeit poetic, with his soliloquies, but he was messed up. So that helps us, and it's a good way of using that as an analogy, so you don't have to point towards, a particular people. Me, my discrimination of preference is a donut. So you're much more loftier than I am, pointing to Hamlet. So
Well, he said nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And that could come out of a sutra.
absolutely. Okay, we'll see you next week. We'll continue on. I intend for a while to kind of go through some of the masters and the patriarchs at this point, and show the progression and also the common ground of ekayana, of mind itself in all of this. And so we'll continue on with Bodhidharma Dhammo next week. You all have a good last of your Valentine.